Welcome to this new lesson. In this new lesson, we will generalize the call with history function that we created in the previous lesson to be a loop that will allow for a continuous dialogue, because what we saw were 3 questions and we needed to add a lot of code for each new question. We need to generalize this to work with any number of questions. We will use some kind of loops which called recursion, which is when a function calls itself. So we will use recursion in order to generalize the dialogue. Let's go back to the code now. Okay, now I will create a new function. So I'm calling it perform chat completion with history continuous, because this time it will be continuous, not just 3 questions. Okay, and let's now comment out the previous function and call the new function. So first we will get the system prompt from the user on the command line. So we are telling the user enter system prompt, and that will call our function, passing the prompt to this anonymous function. Okay, now I am storing this prompt in a variable. Now I am checking if the user did or did not enter a system role in order to use the default system role. And here I am adding this system role, which is the default one. You reply as concisely as possible. So if the user didn't enter a system prompt, I am using the default system prompt. Then I create the messages list. And this messages list, for now, I will just add the system role. Then I will define a new function that I will be calling from within this function. I will call it perform chat completion with history continuous internal. Internal because it is internally called by the outer function. So then here I define this new function, and it takes the messages list that we are passing or declaring here. So here we have the messages available to the function. Then we prompt the user in order to enter a question that it wants us to ask ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 Turbo to answer. The next step, this current question, we will add it to the messages list. Push will add to the end, so it will not override the whole messages list. It will just add a new JavaScript object at the bottom of the previous objects that have been added already, which is for now just the system role message. Then we will go ahead and call our API generate chat completion. We will pass it the message, which now contains the system role and the user role. It is asynchronous, so it will take time. So we will attach a then function which will be called with the response from the chatbot when the function returned. We then now output the chatbot response to the console. Then we will add the assistant response to the messages object. Again, it is push, so it is adding at the bottom of the list. So now in the messages list, we have the system role, the user role, and the assistant role. So it has the system role, question number 1, and response number 1. Okay, so now what do we want? What we did is that we asked the user for a question. We added the question to the messages list. Then we called the function with this messages list. We got the response, we printed out the response, and we added the response to the bottom of the messages list. So what do we need to do then? In fact, what we need to do is to do this again. So to call this function again, I want him to ask for question number 2, push question number 2 to the bottom of the messages list, call the function, get the response, and push the messages to the bottom. And again, I wanted to do that again and again and again. So in this case, we are not using a loop, but we are using what we call recursion. Recursion, it's just I call myself. So a function has did this logic, then I want it to do this logic again and again, so I will call myself. Now, when I call myself again, I will do the same steps and call myself again, and so on. So this is a kind of an infinite loop, and that's why we don't have just 3 questions. We have as many questions as we want, because we will keep calling this function again and again, and this function will ask me for the question. The AI will respond with the answer. Now, there's a problem with this. This means that the function will keep asking, get answer, ask again, get answer, ask again, get answer. It will never stop. So we need to give the user a way to stop. So the way we will give it to the user to stop is that we will ask him to print quit or exit. So if he says quit or exit, I want us to exit this loop. So that's why here, after I get the response from the user, I will check if this question that we got, we lowercase it, because we need to check with lowercase exit and quit. So if this function is included in this list, which is exit and quit, means that we need to return. But before we return, we will print a message. After that, we'll return. So now if the current question is quit or exit, we will show a message and return. So now we have a way for us to exit the loop. It will not be an infinite loop. Another issue that we need to handle, what if the user didn't print a function, just clicked on enter? We need to check for this case. So here we check that if the current question to lowercase is empty, if we don't have a question, we will just call ourselves again. Because if the user didn't enter anything, what do we want? We want it to again ask him to enter again. So if the user don't do anything, we will call ourselves again. Do it again, do it again. And of course, we have to return from this method. Now I think our method is ready, and we are calling it here at the bottom. So let's now demo it. Let's try it. First, I will clear the screen just to clear the output console. Then I will come here and we'll do node playground. Okay, it's asking me to enter the system role. You respond briefly. Okay. What I want to ask, what is the capital of Spain? That's the response. It is Madrid. What is its population? This is the population of Madrid. So it knew that we are talking about Madrid because we are taking the context or the history into account. So what is its area? Again, the area of Madrid, it knew that in question 2 I asked about Madrid. Okay, let's try and enter, just enter, don't enter anything. As you can see, it is keeping coming back because of this loop. Okay, let's press on quit. The chatbot says, I was happy to assist you, bye. So as you can see, guys, we used the recursion in order to create a kind of a loop that will allow us to use a call with history for infinite number of questions, not just for 3 questions as we did in the previous lesson. Here we have any number of questions. Thanks, and see you in the new lessons.